Greetings fellow geeks and welcome to a special episode of Geeks Like Me with me, your host, Drake and Red Fox. Today on the show we have American writer, game designer, musician and the co-creator of the Pathfinder roleplay system, the one and only James L. Sutter. James, welcome to Geeks Like Me and welcome to South Africa.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah. This is your first trip to South Africa?
Yeah, it's my first trip to the continent. It was very exciting to be brought down. I'm really looking forward to getting to experience more, even beyond just the convention.
And yeah, you're having a good time so far?
It's been great. Everybody is super nice. It's fascinating because, you know, to be perfectly honest, in the States, we know very little about Africa compared to, you know, Europe and other places. You know, we just aren't exposed to a lot of South African culture, things like that, and so that makes it super fun for me to come down and get to know people.
Okay. Now, people know you most as the co-creator of Pathfinder.
Yeah. But
can you tell us a little bit more about the road leading up to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, so I started out writing, you know, journalism in college, or university as you guys say down here. And then I came out of that and realized that while I really loved writing, I didn't really care about reporting and facts. You know, I just wanted to write stuff that made people happy, that people enjoyed. And I'd always loved fantasy novels and science fiction, so I started working, you know, doing odd jobs that got me into working at Dungeon Magazine for Dungeons & Dragons. I did that for a couple years, and then when the magazine license got pulled because they went online and they retired the print version, the company I worked for, Paizo, we all looked at each other and said, well, we need to do something, and the thing that we're good at is writing adventures for Dungeons & Dragons. So we created this thing called the Pathfinder Adventure Path, which had adventures and kind of built a new campaign setting and whatnot. And then a few years later, we went ahead and took that and turned that into the Pathfinder role-playing game, which was sort of an evolution of the Dungeons & Dragons rules into its own new system. And to our surprise and delight, it really took off and became fairly quickly sort of the other big fantasy role-playing system, even for a while outselling Dungeons & Dragons. So we really kind of, against our expectations, ended up kind of being a big deal in the RPG world. And then now we're launching the Starfinder role-playing game, and I'm the creative director on that. So that's a sort of science fantasy version of Pathfinder. It's a standalone game, but the idea is that it's got that same aesthetic as Pathfinder, but thousands of years in the future. So now your elves and, you know, your spellcasters also have laser guns and starships.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and so that launches in August, and so we're revving up to put that out.
Okay, now, you're a successful author with books like Death's Heretic, The Redemption Engine.
Yeah.
You designed a game, you're a comic book writer as well.
Yeah, I write for comics.
Where do you get all your inspiration from? Is it all just the imagination, or do you draw inspiration from other places as well?
Oh, I mean, everywhere. I mean, I'm a huge fan of whether it's books or music or whatever, whenever I see somebody else do something well, I go, oh my God, that's so much fun. I want to do that, but different, right? So whether that's every time I read a good novel, I sit down and go, oh, I want to write a novel like that. You know, and of course, I'm not copying what somebody's done, but just I'm taking that inspiration and saying, well, what would I do if I were, you know, oh, that was a great Lovecraft-themed novel. How would I do a Lovecraft novel? You know, that was, and even art forms that I know nothing about. If I go to a bluegrass music festival, you know, the next day I buy a banjo, even if I don't know how to play it, right? I find a lot of inspiration in the work that my peers in the field are doing. But then I also am a big believer in creativity on command, because coming from a journalism background, working in magazines and books, you know, Paizo puts out about 80 books a year. So there's a lot of turnover, and sometimes you've got, you know, well, this chapter in this book is a page short. We need, you know, 1,000 words on, you know, this city of orcs, and we need it in 2 hours. You know, you can't just wait for inspiration. You have to sit there and just sort of stream of consciousness style find anything you can to start with, and then just sort of build on it. And even if my philosophy is, even if the first thing you write is bad, if you keep going with it, you'll eventually find something that's good, and then you can go back and delete that original stuff. And so there's a lot of stuff that I wrote at the last minute, at 4 a.m., in a daze, just trying to fill word count, that then turned into, like for instance, a perfect example is one of those novels is set in a city called Karamaga for the Pathfinder setting. Well, that city started as I just had a page to fill in an adventure module I was doing, and so I just invented this city sort of randomly, throwing out stuff that I had no idea. It's like, oh, this city's full of worm folk and bloat mages and all these, just dropping these terms, and then the fans would say, well, what are those things? And the answer was, I have no idea. And so then, I ended up writing other books to figure out what I had been talking about, and it ended up becoming one of my sort of like trademark cities. So.
Cool. I have to ask, do you, like with all the modules and expansions and things you write, do you personally play test them?
Do I play test everything? No, not personally. We've got, Paizo's a big company. We've got, in the editorial team alone, probably 20 people, something like that. So I can't even these days read all the stuff we produce, but that's why it's important to have a really good team of people you trust, because they know that, if, for instance, if you've got James Jacobs is the creative director on Pathfinder, I'm the creative director on Starfinder these days, I trust that if he's writing a book about Pathfinder, even if it's something that I really care about, I trust that he's going to make good decisions, right, and vice versa. So it's really a team effort all the time.
Okay, now, writing for tabletop role-playing, prior to all of that, did you do some tabletop role-playing yourself?
Oh, of course, yeah. No, I learned how to play Dungeons & Dragons when I was in 5th grade. My 5th grade teacher taught me how to play, and I'm so appreciative.
Awesome teacher.
He probably, exactly, right? He taught us how to play on his lunch break, and he probably never realized that of everything in my schooling, that lunchtime D&D game was the one that actually led to a career. That's how I support myself. I played all the way up through high school and into college. And then I stopped playing for a while because I was focusing all my spare time on music. And then when I realized that there was nearby these Dungeons & Dragons magazines, that really sparked me to get back into it. And then certainly working in the field, I said, well, I need to play a lot more if I want to know what people need. So
yesterday on one of the panels, I actually was sitting in, and this actual question came up, role-playing started my geekdom.
Yeah.
And it's a place that I could experience different aspects of things that I might have been scared to do before.
Sure,
and it actually built part of my character into who I am today.
Yes.
Is that a thing that you think happens? Is that
I think it happens constantly. Yeah, somebody was saying there was a panel, I wasn't able to go to it, but there was a panel on, I think it was sexuality and development and role-playing and whatnot. But the idea of role-playing as a way to test out different parts of your character, right? Or of your actual self, right? If you say, oh, well, I want to play as somebody of the opposite gender, maybe, if you're a transgender person, maybe that first step is, well, let's see what it's like to sort of imagine myself as somebody, of a different gender. Or I think really it teaches potentially a lot about empathy, a lot about thinking of the world through somebody else's eyes. And I think that can be really useful for figuring out yourself, but also for figuring out other people.
Yeah, great. So I have a little bit, if it's okay with you, a little bit of a challenge for you, seeing that you're very creative.
Oh, no.
As I am dressed right now,
sure.
Okay, I want you to just give it a quick look and create a character based on how I look, with a name and a little bit of a backstory.
Oh, geez. Okay. Let's see. Probably a steampunk sort of character because of the goggles. Let's see. But the vest, so you're very dapper. Let's see. I'm going to name your character Arlington Mason, and you are a debonair airship pilot who has, let's see, you smuggle illicit substances between two different mountaintop cities on another planet.
That is fantastic. That is also thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, just while I have a little bit of time still left, you're also a musician, as you mentioned. Just coming back to that, guitarist, vocalist.
Yeah.
You currently play in a band called Brides of the Lizard God.
Yeah, exactly.
When I read up on that, I was like the best name for a band.
I know, right? Like
so. And I've listened to the music. It's really good. Like the first, you released a little album.
Yeah, just for fun.
The first song on there, In the Night.
Oh yeah,
it's really, really nice. So what I have to ask you, being a writer, do you write the lyrics?
Yes, yeah. Well, I do. It's me and the other guitarist and vocalist, Patrick Tucson, is also a really talented songwriter. And he also writes great lyrics, which is really fun. I love working in a group where, I can fully trust another, team member. And that's why I love my band. Everybody in it is really, really good. Which is why it's so fun, even though we're not trying to, get big anymore. But I really love just playing music with people who bring so much creativity to the mix. But yeah, no, we very much love writing about dragons and spaceships and stuff like that, just because it's fun. It's the same reason I love writing novels and comics and stuff about fantasy and science fiction.
So lastly, for all the aspiring authors and comic book writers out there, what words of wisdom and inspiration can you give to them?
I would say you really just need to put your stuff out there. You need to just write the best you can, do your own thing, and then send it out, because you will get rejected, but rejection is just a natural part of the process. And eventually, if you get enough rejections, somebody will take a chance on your work, and then you put that portfolio piece sort of in your folder and you cherish it, but then you keep on going back out there and getting rejected again. Ray Bradbury famously said, quantity begets quality. You just need to make a bunch of stuff, and you may not even know which story is the one that is going to really resonate with people. So just put it out there, do the best work you can, and don't give up. It's the people that stick around and stay in this industry that actually become successful. Talent is a very small part. The rest of it is just grit and sticking to it.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure to have a chat with you, and thank you for joining us on Geeks Like Me.
Hey, thank you.
As
Likewise.
a little token of our appreciation, we have this little badge
nice.
that you can take with you back to the States to remember us by.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your icon and enjoy the rest of your stay in South Africa.
I will, yeah.
And that was our interview with James Sutter, an amazing person, amazing author. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. If you like what you see, please subscribe to the channel, like and share this with your friends everywhere. Until next time, from me, Drake and Red Fox, game on and geek on.
I'm James L. Sutter, and I love Geeks Like Me.